We're going to call the council meeting to order. Before the invocation, there'll be Pastor John Lemmings that will be doing the invocation, and the Pledge of Allegiance will be done by Officer Matt Hayes. As Pastor Lemming is making his way up front, I want to mention that we just recently lost one of our citizens that had been a loyal volunteer to the city and was actually going to be recognized tonight before he had a medical incident. And Mr. Tom Flowers passed away. If we'd remember his wife Connie and their family in our prayers. He served on both the Planning and Zoning and the Villa Rica Development Authority. And we will present his wife with a plaque at a later time. Would you stand with us, please?
Let's pray together. Father, we love you today. We thank you so much for loving us. We thank you, God, for the opportunity to be here today. And Lord, we just want our words to bring honor and glory to you today. Father, you are worthy of all of our praise and honor and glory. And we thank you so much for your care and your love for us. Lord, we lift up this sweet lady who has just lost her husband, and I pray in Jesus' name that you would bring comfort to her and help her. God, you are the God of all comfort, and you're able, Father. So I pray that you would minister to them through your sweet Holy Spirit. I pray for this meeting tonight, God, that this meeting will bring honor and glory to you. I pray that everything that is said and done, God, brings glory and honor to you. I pray, dear God, that we will be people that love each other and are kind. Lord, your word says to be kind one to another, tenderhearted, forgiving one another, even as God for Christ's sake has forgiven us. So, Lord, I pray for this city. I pray, Lord, for every leader of this city. I pray, God, for every law enforcement of this city, that you would put a hedge of protection around Villa Rica. And I pray, God, that your hand of favor and power will be upon this leadership and this city, God. Show your favor upon Villa Rica, Georgia. And God, we want to thank you for Jesus Christ, our Savior, who died on an old rugged cross for us, Lord, was buried and rose again on the third day. We thank you that through Jesus Christ and his shed blood, every person can have their sins forgiven and a home in heaven. Thank you that we serve a resurrected Savior who is alive today. And we praise you for that, God. We love you. Bless this time. May it be a time that honors you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
John Lemmings is pastor of Journey Fellowship Baptist Church in Bremen, Georgia. This February, the church will celebrate 5 years of church life and is blessed with wonderful people that love Jesus. Pastor John is married to his Mount Zion high school sweetheart, Missy, for 37 years. They have been and are blessed with 4 children and 7 grandchildren. Pastor John graduated from Luther Rice Seminary and Faith Bible Institute, is currently studying biblical archaeology. In his spare time, he loves to read, play golf, enjoy watching football, and playing with the grandkids. His life verse is Proverbs 27. The just man walks in his integrity, and his children are blessed after him. Our pledge was done tonight by Officer Matt Hayes. Officer Hayes was born and raised in Lithia Springs, Georgia, and graduated from Lithia Springs High School. After high school, he served in the U.S. Army from 1998 to 2006. Thank you, sir. As a Cavalry Scout with the 3rd ID. Officer Hayes started his law enforcement career in 2006 with Hapeville PD and later returned to the U.S. Army as a military police officer until 2011. Officer Hayes worked in the private sector until 2018, worked for Douglasville PD from 2018 to 2023, and was hired at the Villa Rica Police Department in April of 2023 and is currently assigned to the Patrol Division, Shift A, which is the daytime patrol. Officer Hayes is married to Amy Hayes, who is an attorney and is contracted by the West Georgia Public Defender's Office in Coweta State and Superior Courts. They have 2 children, Hayden, 16 years old, and Emerson, 15 years old. Thank you, officer. Thank you for your service also. Go Army. And 2 teenagers. It can be fun. Thank you for, is Pastor already gone? Oh, you're here. Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming. Appreciate it. All right, we have a few ceremonial recognitions to make this evening. Recognition for 15 years of service, Michelle Landrum. Let me guess who's doing that one. Come on, Chief. Two people out of PD in different positions.
So Michelle has been with the department, as you know, 15 years, and Michelle is one of those that is wide open all the time. Just a worker. She runs hard all the time. Currently, she has been serving as our SRO sergeant until. Hold on. This is easier. So Michelle had a medical emergency while here at the school system. She was at her school. She called Lujan and said, something's going on, something ain't right. We got her to the hospital, and I don't think she minds me saying, but she had a stroke. And I can honestly tell you, I was there and saw it, and it broke my heart, because I saw somebody that's always wide open, going hard, and she's in crisis. And it was a very scary situation for us, for the department. That's been over a year ago. Michelle has wide open comeback. I mean, she is just busy. She worked her tail off to get back, which I have nothing but respect for, because a lot of people would have just thrown it in and quit doing it. She's not back to full duty yet, but she is back to light duty. She's helping us with our certification right now. She still helps make sure the schools are great. The schools love her, miss her, have been amazing, and the support for her, as has a lot of the citizens in Villa Rica. Michelle's one of those that you just have to love her. She's just such a great person. She's a great leader. She's just amazing. And so congratulations, Michelle, 15 years. Come up. Rhonda Gullich. Okay. Rhonda, where you at? There you are, over in the corner. Okay. Most of you know Rhonda. Rhonda's worked with the city in different capacities for the city. She is always smiling. She's always happy. She's always friendly. She's always helpful. She genuinely loves Villa Rica. She loves the citizens. And like I said, she's worked in several different capacities for the department. She was our administrative assistant at one time. She worked down at the Main Street for a while. She's come back to us as a night shift receptionist, which is amazing to me, because I can't stay up that much. So I'm impressed by that anyway. But she's celebrating 10 years with us, and we appreciate her. We appreciate the positivity. We appreciate how much she gives to others nonstop. And so thank you, Rhonda, for your service. And come on.
Okay, before we adopt the agenda, are there any changes before I receive a motion?
Yeah, we have two things we need to remove from the agenda. Item B1, which is a discussion of Pumpkin Town Road development, and item D1, which is the Pro Laser 4 purchase.
So we're removing item B as in boy 1 and D as in dog 1.
And I'll make a motion that we adopt the revised agenda.
All in favor? Any opposed?
That is unanimous.
Okay, we're going to move into public comment. I'll go with the names first that are on the sign-up sheets. If you're here and you did not sign in the foyer before you came in and you wish to speak, after I finish this list, you'll be given time if you'd like to talk or whatever. I will call on those individuals first. As you come to the podium, please state your name and address for the record. Each individual will be given 3 minutes to speak. Those addressing the mayor and council may feel free to speak openly on the matter that you wish to bring to our attention, but we do ask that you do so in a respectful manner, refraining from any uncivil discourse. As an elected body, we do not typically engage in back and forth and answering questions at that time. However, if your comment does necessitate an answer to a question, we'll make sure that you get an answer either from the city manager or a staff member that it would pertain to their department. I'll be happy to have the city manager contact you if needed. You're in there too. As elected officials, we do value the opportunity to hear from citizens and to those who have a vested interest in the city. First name, Pam White.
Good evening. We just have I have a question for our neighborhood. We need to know what neighborhood is the East Side Village located? Where is it located? We've asked this question several times, but haven't received any confirmation if our community has been placed inside this village, and if so, why weren't we informed, and when was it created, and by whom? We see it located on different maps with numbers, and it have our streets listed, but it is going up under another name that we don't identify with because we didn't know that it existed. You all have brought a lot of things before the council and stuff concerning this East Side Village, and we've been in the audience before having no clue that it was you all that, if it was us that you all were discussing, because nobody ever told us that it was us. So if I could speak with someone afterwards, I would like to get some clarity so we can get some dates as to when this was created, why, and by whom. Thank you.
Jeremy, is it Brown? Charlotte Evans?
Charlotte Evans, 640 Clearview Street. I'm not sure if I'm going to make it to the point in the agenda for one of the projects going on in our ward. I know I heard you speaking positively about it. I believe that this project going on is a good thing for our ward. It beats having industrial right here in the downtown area, or in our downtown area, right next to the interstate, and that's where they could possibly go, either commercial, and we have no say after that if they rezone. So I agree with Matthew, and I think he should. You guys should vote to do whatever they need you to do. On top of that, we're still having a problem on Clearview Street with the construction, and now we've got a lot of foot traffic that wasn't here before that apartment complex came in. And eventually that foot traffic is going to be a problem because they're cutting through yards. There's they just do whatever they want. We don't know if it's the kids from the school. Usually the kids from the school, they have their distinct route. And now we've got people, all ages, shape, sizes, walking up and down our street all days, all hours of the night and day. We've got extra traffic that's not school traffic. And it's getting out of hand. It's on top of the construction traffic. They're losing stuff off their trucks on the road all the time, hammers, nails, things like that. I couldn't tell you how many times I've had tires patched and plugged in the last couple of months. It's getting out of hand. I know you understand, but I mean, there's a lot of things going on just in that one little area. We've posted videos of the last time it rained. Our street has never flooded at the end, and it was flooded to the point where I was concerned if we get any more rain, it may wash out, and it's coming from certain building sites. It's coming from all over the place. There is nowhere for the stormwater to go because it's not planned for. There's nobody here that can tell you guys in the staff where it needs to go. That's something that really does need to be addressed. Just throwing that out there, because eventually it's going to start washing away roads and people are going to start getting hurt.
Thank you, ma'am. Joshua Evans.
Joshua Evans, 640 Cleaver Street, Villa Rica, Georgia. So, a few things. We asking for $45,000 to pay for an emergency repair that everyone up here was told about prior. Y'all been knowing this for a year. Y'all been told it was a sinkhole on one part of it. Now, we seem to be waiting. Goes back to Old Tanya and Leslie Drive. We seem to wait until things become an emergency, and then we pay astronomical prices to get them fixed because it's an emergency. If we have a chance to fix something before it's an emergency, why not do it? Why? That's $45,000. Y'all said earlier we cut I think a lawnmower or something from the budget. Well, that would have replaced that, I would imagine. I mean, a lawnmower can't cost $45,000. I mean, you could probably buy several of them with that. We have problems. You all have been told the stormwater problems we have. I've stood right here for a year and I've preached it. You all just don't seem to listen. You don't follow codes. You don't follow regulations set by the federal government or the state of Georgia. You don't follow local guidelines codes. You got a storm drain basin over here at Wendy's at New Publix. Go over there and look in it. Where your dumpster pad runs off in it. It's full of grease. I bet it's 3 inches thick. I mean, all that stuff got to go somewhere. Where does it go? Into a retention pond and into our creeks. You all have been told before these things become an emergency and we got to pay these high prices. Let's stop and do a little bit of thinking. Let's fix it before it gets to that point. And I'm going to say this to Mr. Reese. Thank you very much. You did do what you said you would do for the folks in Claycorn. I watched you personally tell contractors, no, this was voted on. Y'all aren't supposed to be here. Nope, that's a done deal. So kudos. I appreciate that. Thank you. I watched you tell them, so thank you for that.
Thank you, sir. Joseph, is it Ludman? Ludeman on Highway 78.
Which I'm Joseph Ludeman, 15001 Veterans Memorial Highway. One of the problems you have is everybody calls it 20 different names. Highway 78, East-West, it's Bankhead Highway, it's all kinds of things. But I'm coming here just asking for a copy of my conditional use permit that was approved. Went into the city 2 weeks ago before they moved. They told me that they don't have record of it, that it's not on records. I had to provide them the minutes that it was approved in front of you all. And then I asked them, I said, well, what happens if I didn't provide you the minutes? Well, we'd have to go back and look. Well, how do you do that? Well, we go back through the minutes and look. To me, that's a flawed system. Like, for me, if I went up there and said, hey, I would like to get a record of anybody that has a conditional use permit to do towing in Villa Rica, there should be an easy access to be able to provide that. If I provide them with the address, that would be one way. But from their own acknowledgement, they don't have that ability. They have to go back and look through every minute. So to me, that would say, I got this originally done in 2018, renewed it last year, or actually this year. So I'm just confused on how that works out. There's a reason I want a copy of the conditional use permit, is because I don't want a mayor to hire a new person and come in and say, hey, you don't have a conditional use permit, and cite me ungodly amount of fines, and then I don't actually have a copy of my conditional use permit, or they rezone it from industrial to commercial, or just whatever they choose to do that year, which is all things that's already happened to me in the last 6 years. So that's why I'd like to have a copy of it. I prefer it to have Villa Rica's letterhead on it. I don't want a copy of the minutes. That's pretty much it. Thank you.
Makes sense. Thank you, sir. We'll get that taken care of. Alita Farmer.
Good evening.
Evening.
Alita Dobbs Farmer, 216 Anderson Road. I'm here to bring to your attention, I have a question. On June the 11th, 2024, we had a meeting here that lasted approximately 3 hours regarding the Claycorn Anderson community, where the citizens and the city council spoke to the town hall for about an hour and 13 minutes. At that meeting, it was the will of the council was to pause any further action for 2 months on the Villa Rica Parkway and Claycorn Street. So two months has expired. So I'm taking that the pause has been expired. And the reason I'm saying that is because, from my understanding, there were contractors in our area. So just wanted to know if someone can clarify that and put that in writing, where our status lay. And also to bring up a point from earlier today. I was told that the people online could not hear the whole meeting. But earlier today, I brought up Carol Tomorrow. And Carol Tomorrow, as I discussed earlier, Leslie, because you being on the board of directors, are you going to recuse yourself from making comments and have an opinion about something that you actually have a position in? So I'm talking to you directly, because I think you know the charter, as I read the rules, of being, as they say, having an invested interest. So I want you to be mindful of that, as we be mindful of being good citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Demita Pritchett.
Demita Pritchett, 2502 Sonoma Valley. I'm here speaking for my mom on Darden Street. I think somebody mentioned about contractors on her property surveying. But Leslie, you mentioned that that house was not going to be impacted. So why are contractors surveying her property? That's one question. The second question is, why now is there conversations about potentially cutting off access to Claycorn Street over the railroad? You mentioned that you voted for the parkway because it provided another access for emergency vehicles or responders, but yet now there's conversations had to try to reduce access to that area. So is that happening or is it not happening? You did say in one of our meetings at Mr. Wilson's funeral home that you knew nothing about it, and that was about 2 months ago. It's no coincidence, like 2 months later, you're having conversations with certain people in that community to get their feedback. You should have conversations with everyone in that community so we can provide feedback. It's not just pick and choose who you want to talk to. That's another thing. And then I've been up here for over a year about this parkway. You say you're not in favor of eminent domain. Doesn't mean you won't use it. Favor doesn't mean you won't use it. You're like, I'm not in favor, but doesn't mean you won't use it. If you don't get people to compromise, give their land, are you going to use eminent domain to build this parkway that nobody wants? Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Peg Taylor.
Peg Taylor, 2120 Osprey Cove, and that's Villa Rica. So we all know about the mass shooting at the school, and I don't know if there's anything going on in the school systems or in local governments, but I was talking with some girlfriends of mine in the neighborhood, and so I'm just going to give you what our thoughts were. I think a task force should be formed if it's not already, and I think that students should have to go through some type of conflict resolution classes, age appropriate, of course. And I really think that each of the students should meet with a counselor. And I didn't know this, but they told me that counselors are not mental health. It's more about the subject or the grade that they, or a teacher maybe. It's not really counseling like I think of it as mental health counseling. So I really think each student should meet with them at least once a year, maybe twice, maybe like trained psychologists. So that's just another thought. And I think there should be mental health screenings done. And then this is something just because I happened to go to see a movie a couple Sundays ago, and it was where a child was bullied. And the consequences, his mother told him to stand up to the bully. So the kid turned around and faced the bully, and the mother watched through the window to make sure that her kid didn't die. But anyways, the idea was you got to stand up to the bully. And so I'm thinking, just from talking with my girlfriends, that maybe the person or group that's doing the bullying should have to meet with their victim and maybe their youth pastor and maybe the teachers and maybe their teachers, parents, and then figure out how to resolve this conflict so that it doesn't perpetuate. Because from what I've read is that sometimes these mass shootings are from people that have been bullied. I don't know if that's all, but some. Let's see, what else do I have written down here? Oh, and parents. Parents need to ask their children about their friends, about how they're doing, how they're feeling. And then also teachers need to be able to notice stuff and be able to report it to maybe the mental health psychologist or whatever if they're on staff, or even if they're not on staff, somehow have a way to report it. Those are my observations and suggestions, because everybody says enough is enough, but I don't know what's being done in the school system, so I'm just making suggestions.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else? I have now finished with the list of everyone that signed up. Yes, ma'am.
Jackie Childress, 1050 West Highway 78. I wanted to bring up 2 points that I brought up during the planning session, and I'll be quick because you've already heard it, but they haven't. The first is that I happened to encounter, while I was riding on the part of the proposed parkway, a woman who had a 6 to an 8-year-old child in the seat beside her on a golf cart, and a man sitting across the back bar. I almost literally ran into them. It really has shaken me up a lot, because that could have turned into a really bad incident for a lot of people. I know she should not have been in the middle of the road. She should have been on the area where the golf carts are approved to be, but she was not, and she was going very fast. So I bring this up only because, number one, as everybody knows, I'm opposed to the parkway. I think that if we had that on the ballot today for people to vote for, they don't know what it is. We've done a very poor job, all of us, of not educating correctly the people in this community of what this parkway could or could not do for us. So I'll leave that there and move to my next point. With regards to, as it was referred to earlier, the kudzu patch, where they have had several applications presented, and now tonight they want to present another one of those. I'd like to see us let them do the PUD application from start to finish over again. But I'd like to see a couple of stipulations put to that. Number one, that they can't keep coming back asking for revisions and rezonings and all that. If that's what they want to do, then force them to adhere by the application that they submit. Give them a time frame to provide that they're working towards that goal, and if they're not, then bring them in. Make them be held accountable as to why they're not doing that. My last point is that I don't think a data center in that area mixed in with what they're proposing now is a good fit for that area. If they want to put it in a commercial area or somewhere else, I'd be all for it. We need jobs brought into our community. It brings in funds to our community, but that area that they were proposing to put that is not a viable source for that type of a business. So I guess that's it. I'd just like to have you really think about it tonight and really ask the questions that need to be asked, and go ahead and approve the PUD for them if they submit everything that needs to be submitted, so we can at least see something there, but let's move on with it.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else that would like to speak during public comment? Anyone else? Okay, we'll go ahead and close public comment at this time then. Council updates, subject of general interest or concerns. It could be your ward or something else.
I will go ahead and throw out real quick. Let me bring up the dates. The weekend of September 27th, 28th, and 29th. I know there's a lot of things going on this time of year with festivals and other events, sports, things like that going on. But the weekend of September 27th, 28th, and 29th, Reed Plantation will be having their annual yard sale. That's all that I have.
I didn't hear you what you say, Steph. What was going on?
Yard sale.
The annual Reed Plantation yard sale. Sorry, my voice is cracking.
I just didn't hear the last little part. That's all.
Got it.
Okay. September what now?
Yeah, so I did hear that it's the same weekend as Mirror Lakes. Totally fine.
Go
It's
both.
just a whole weekend of yard sales. So go on over to Mirror Lake, come on over to Reed Plantation, make it a whole weekend event, and spend lots of money.
And get really good deals, right?
I was going to say, my mom was on a yard sale kick a few years ago, and she would like to go from neighborhood to neighborhood to neighborhood. So this is actually a very great opportunity. And Peg, I know you're back there. I'm right on my dates, correct? Yes. Okay. I just wanted to make sure, because I've just seen the signs outside my neighborhood, and my eyes could have deceived me. But this would be a great opportunity to either go to Mirror Lake or go to Reed Plantation or vice versa, and you can see the town of Villa Rica.
I agree.
Ms. Warmoth, I don't think Councilwoman Marshall heard the dates.
Oh, I'm sorry. So, this is for Reed Plantation and Mirror Lake. Let me throw that back out there again. It's the 27th, the 28th, and the 29th. So it's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
But I think we're
Thank you.
Okay, so Mirror Lake is just Saturday and Sunday. So come on over to Reed Plantation that Friday and spend all your money then.
And keep in mind,
Just
both
give me your
those
dates.
subdivisions are really tight roadways, and so that's why we have Chief Mansour help us with traffic control. Please just park on one side of the road if you're a shopper.
Okay, y'all know where to go that weekend. Anyone else?
We'll make a,
Ward 5?
okay, well, Ward 5, everybody in the Villa Rica needs to know that the paving of Edge Road was due to begin this week on Thursday. It looks like the rain's coming in. It might be next week, but they're going to start paving Edge Road real soon.
The remnants of a hurricane or tropical storm, right? All right, I'll use my time to go ahead and clear, sorry, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Childers spoke to me this morning, actually, about her concern regarding the golf cart, and it reminded me back in February and March of 2022, we actually had a discussion regarding the golf cart, and I think at that time the discussion was to increase the permissible speed limit on roads that permit golf carts, which was ultimately vetoed by the mayor at that time. But at the same time, if I'm thinking of the same correct time frame, there was a discussion among staff and the council that we would revisit our ordinance and potentially see about enforcement mechanisms regarding the ordinance and other such things that I can't remember because it's been over 2 years now. And so 2 years have gone by, and hopefully we can avert future situations like Ms. Childers encountered with an updated ordinance and to enforce our golf cart ordinance and the rules and restrictions regarding them. So I just wanted to kind of bring that back up for staff's investigation.
Will
Thank
you
you.
write that down, too, to make sure we do follow up on it?
Okay.
Part of that was educating people about the registration process. It's cheap, it's easy, but most people don't know about it. So the word has to get out there. And there's certain requirements of what you have to have on the golf cart, the lights, the reflectivity, the seatbelt thing, and also. Most people have, I believe, it's just like a lot of other laws, they don't know what's all on the books, and
Right.
we've got to get the word out there. And we may need to tweak it. So I'll use my time just to, since I won't be able, we don't engage back and forth and turn it into a debate during the time, but to answer a few people's questions in regards to Carol tomorrow, I'm more than happy to answer that question. I would not recuse myself from a vote having to do with that because, number one, the fact that I serve on the board, I am a representative of Villa Rica on that board. I get there's no compensation, there's no special favors. In the charter, you would have to receive something of benefit that you would recuse yourself from because somehow you benefit from it. The only group that could benefit from my membership with Carol tomorrow, and every mayor that is elected is automatically put on that board. So if you look around the county, every mayor in the county is on the board. And so I'm there to represent our city. The only benefit I can get is for the city, not any personal benefit from that. So in that case, I would not recuse myself. I cannot answer the Darden Street question, but I know the city manager can, and I know you have a meeting with him tomorrow. So hopefully that can be cleared up because I was not aware of what was happening over there. I've been told about it, but I don't have personal firsthand knowledge. We have, if y'all are done, if there's nothing else on updates, I'll go right into the consent agenda. All right, so earlier today when we had our work session at 1:30, we went over a number of items, discussed them, and those items that were unanimous with putting on, and it has to be unanimous to go on the consent agenda, we voted on them as a package all at once, and these are the items. Number one, the Fullerville lighting installation by Georgia Power. Number two, ratification of the WIC building move, which is right out here. Club Bay, number three, Club Bay pump replacement. Number four, the North wastewater plant generator replacement. Number five, emergency storm water repair in Villa Rica Trace subdivision. All right, we had a lot of meetings. So y'all have had a lot of meetings to review here, so,
Now, let me
Ma'am,
move
we
to
have
adopt. I'm gonna move to
oh,
adopt
I'm
the consent
sorry.
agenda.
I need to entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
So move.
All in favor? Any opposed? All right, consent agenda is adopted. Governing body on the work, Mr. Drummond, can we do these separate? I mean, do we have to do them separately? Or can more than one set of minutes be adopted at once if there's no changes? If it needs to be separate, that's what we'll do. Okay. Hopefully, everyone has reviewed the minutes. There were work session council meeting of the 13th, the called meeting of the 20th, two called meetings, because we've had the hearings and budget millage rate setting, and then August 27th, two different special called meetings. Does anyone have any corrections or?
You missed one. You missed one.
There's one more on
Oh,
September
next
3rd.
page. Also September 3rd, yes, the special called meeting on September 3rd. Any corrections, changes? I'll entertain a motion to adopt the minutes of all those dates. If there's no corrections. Entertain a motion?
Okay, I'll make a motion to adopt the minutes from August the 13th, August the 20th, August the 27th, and September the 3rd.
All in favor? Any opposed? Oh.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed?
That's unanimous.
Okay, thank you. All right, we removed item B1, the Punkintown Road. We are C, Community Development, and this does require a public hearing. This is the extension of the rezoning for 55 and 63 Goldworth Road, the Avamore project.
Good evening, Mayor and Good evening, Mayor and Council members. Nina Shabazz, Community Development Director, coming again before you with the purpose of the applicant, Avamore Georgia LLC, seeks an extension of the rezoning for Avamore from rural development to PD, planned development, which is a PUD. This expires on September 12th, 2024, without an extension. A little bit about the background. Again, the City Council approved the Avamore project at 55 and 63 Goldworth in 2018 with a total of 200 single-family units, 300 multifamily units, and live-work units, along with a host of other uses including senior housing, which includes independent living, memory care, and minimum age restriction of 55 years. In 2020, the city increased the total number of single-family lots to no more than 250 units and the multifamily units to a maximum of 325 units. In 2025, the City Council approved an additional 290 units of senior housing with a minimum age of 55 years. The applicant is returning to extend their zoning approvals for another year as specified in the original and subsequent conditions placed on the conditionally approved project. The applicant has not completed all conditions specified by council as highlighted below. They have not updated the review letter from Three Rivers Regional Commission. They have not updated their traffic analysis, and they have not submitted a detailed plan on the proposed movement of the water tower. Staff's recommendation is denial. Reasons: applicant has outstanding conditions of approval that have not been met that are required for extensions. Should the council decide to approve, potential actions could be a submit updated review letter from Three Rivers Regional Commission within 60 days of approval. Number 2, submit updated traffic analysis within 60 days of approval. 3, submittal of a detailed plan on the proposed movement of the water tower within 60 days of approval. And number 4, to subject any additional changes of conditions to a new application and hearing.
questions from council for staff? Is the applicant here?
The applicant is here.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Joe Fowler, Post Office Box 49 in Douglasville. I'm here for the new owners of Avamore. Thank you. That's the first time anybody has told me to raise the microphone. Thank you.
Just sensitive that people watching sometime, they let us know when they can't hear.
The new owners are Mike Embry and Brett Embry. They now control this development. We're here, of course, for the renewal of the PUD. It's been an evergreen process for some time. Since we're here last time, the land disturbance permit has been granted, thus, of course, vesting certain rights of the owners to the zoning that was approved. So far, there's been 1,800 feet of silt fence installed. The extension requirement, of course, is so the city can keep up with what was going on with the massive project as it was originally proposed and then as it has sort of evolved over the years since then. There was a recent request from the new owners to add back certain things. I say add back because it's my understanding that these things were in the original, but to add back drive-through facilities for restaurants, banks, and laundry, those requests have now been withdrawn, and I did that by letter to Mr. Drummond, with whom I have been speaking about this for a few days. You may know that there is another development regarding this project, and that is to combine all of this acreage, roughly 224 acres, with an ongoing, or I should say an adjoining parcel of 240 acres, and to do that addition by way of annexation, which of course would have to come before the council, and to do that for the purpose of adding one or more data centers. An appropriate annexation will be filed shortly by our office, which will be combined with a request to significantly change the Avamore PUD to eliminate the existing approved uses, and that is all of the apartments and townhomes, all the commercial, and then the other single-family residential homes. Until that unfolds, and that process is ongoing at this point, until that unfolds, we simply ask you to continue the PUD as it currently stands. Now, when speaking with Mr. Drummond, he noted that, as you just heard from the Community Service Director, that certain conditions needed to be addressed, and we are very well aware of that. First, the updated review letter from Three Rivers Regional Commission, the updated traffic study, and then the plan on moving the water tower. I will note that as to the first two, that is the review letter from Three Rivers and then the issue concerning the traffic report, they were instructed by Mr. Barber, formerly employed, to hold off on the letter and the report until the LDP was obtained. We recently obtained that, as you know, as I mentioned, and we have, because that LDP is in place, we're ready to proceed with both the DRI. However, given the current proposed plan to basically undo Avamore, as everybody in this room and as the council understands it, under the new plan, we'd have to get an entirely new DRI because of what is proposed. On the water tower, they were awaiting direction from the Public Works Director. And with respect to that and both the other two conditions that really were pending, as was noted, we asked the council to do this. Based on the plan that is about to be filed, and we've been working on the annexation and site plan, it will come to you shortly. We ask you to simply do this. That is to continue the vested rights under the PUD as we prepare to submit to you the new plan for the annexation and rezoning. Someone spoke a moment ago and said, we don't want data centers mixed in with, shall I wait or continue?
Hang on just a minute.
It's like at my office.
Some of them have more fun coming through than others with the horn. Yeah, it's loud. It's worse when those doors are open.
Mm-hmm. I can shut the doors if you like.
Usually they are shut. I'm not sure why the doors are left open. Thank you, Teresa. I think it's safe, Mr. Fowler.
Thank you. Based under the site plan that you'll be presented, what you'll see is the Evermore project will be data centers only. Now, we all know about data centers. We've done a number in Douglas County, and I'm working on several right now, and there are questions about power and water. And I know those are a concern to the council. If we don't resolve those issues in advance, we won't be able to present to you anything with respect to those data centers. And at that point, if that falls through, if this concept of combining everything falls through, then what we'd like to do is to continue with the PUD as you've heard it described, with the view in mind that they've already obtained vested rights under certain portions of the permit already. So that's the presentation, Madam Mayor and other members of the council. The persons who are the current owners are here and can respond to specific detailed questions about both sides of those issues, what's currently in place, up for renewal, and then what has otherwise been proposed. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, any questions for the applicant at this time?
I have a question.
And I imagine y'all are should all be up here. Mr. Fowler, you may need to stay nearby too, depending on the questions. Y'all come on up.
I have a question.
Embry, correct?
I have a question.
Yes.
Mike Embry.
My question is, we talking about the database, data, whatever, and the problem seems to be the water and the sewage, and he was saying you all had some plans. So since we're talking about the water is a problem, what are your plans to do about the water and the sewage if it's passed?
Well, the first thing I'll answer is the reason we're asking for the PUD to be renewed is if these things don't work with the data center, we want to continue with what we have. As far as the water, we want to use recycled water, which they call gray water, which would actually be water that's treated that comes through to cool, and that also relieves from the sewage system also. But these are ongoing things that'll be presented. That'll take the next few weeks for that to be put together and be filed by the end of the month.
Oh, so you're saying the water would be recycled, so to speak, running
Correct.
through something and recycled?
Yeah, they call it gray water.
So that wouldn't affect the amount of water that's for the city?
It would not be
for you all?
It would not be treated water that's drinkable. We wouldn't be using the water from the water system that's drinkable for the city.
Are you finished?
Yeah.
Okay. Councilman Warman?
So what you're saying is that you're afraid of commitment?
Well, no, I'm committed to the project as it is.
I'm not asking if you're afraid of the project or committing to the project itself, but you're afraid to commit to exactly what the project is.
No, we're moving on Avamore as it sits right now. We're working on it as it currently is.
But what you're saying is that you want to go with the PUD or the data center?
It would still be a PUD. It would be expanded.
To the data center?
What we would be doing is annexing in more acreage, and then it would become Avamore with the apartments and everything else would be taken off the table and completely data centers.
This is the problem. So there was a citizen, Greg Roberts, who spoke out in public comment after the work session. We spent 45 minutes in this discussion during the work session, and he was just as confused as we all were. Everything that you have presented is confusing because I'm not done. There is nothing in what you have presented that clearly states what your intent is. And even as you're sitting here speaking right now, you're saying you want a data center, which is industrial, which means that you have to have it rezoned before you can have it done as a data center. And let me say, for those who spoke out in favor of of this being a data center, that if they walked away and this was rezoned as industrial, we could have an aluminum plant in that space. And there is nothing that we can do about that. So just know if they walk away from it and it's rezoned industrial, that's what we're stuck with. My point is you're asking for residential, you're asking for commercial, and you're asking for industrial. So that's where I'm asking if you're having a problem with a commitment in this situation.
I'm not, I'm asking for my renewal, and this was something we brought up when we withdrew the PUD expansion, and we tried to keep these things separate. Avamore renewal is one thing. The rezoning and annexation is something else that'll happen in the future if it happens. Y'all don't have to allow it to happen, but as it currently is, it has to be renewed as the PUD, and that's all we're asking for what it is now, and we'll be filing a separate application in the future, and it's either accepted or it isn't by the council.
So we want to build a data center right next to a residential area that you build.
All the residential would be gone. If we file for the data center, we're gonna ask to modify the PUD, and it completely takes all that away and includes the new property as a data center also.
So are you doing residential or are you not doing residential?
I'm sorry, what?
Are you doing residential or are you not doing residential?
We're moving.
Because this plan says that you are wanting to do a maximum single-family units of 250, a multifamily units of 325, and senior housing of 290. So now you're saying you don't want to do any residential at all?
We're moving forward with it just like it reads, what you just read.
But you have plans for a data center.
If everything works, if the water works, the power, everything we're working on, that may come back and not work. That's why we were trying to keep these as separate issues, is that may not even work. We're working on that now. We haven't filed for it yet, so it doesn't have any bearing on what we're doing trying to renew this, is what we've been trying to keep them separate.
So it sounds to me like you might want to figure out whether or not you want a data center.
Well, I mean, I could come back in and ask to take the senior living off and change it to single family. It's just the PUD is something
That's not the issue that I'm having here. My issue is, do you want residential, commercial, a PUD, or are you wanting a data center?
We want to keep Avamore just like it is. And if we plan to do something with the PUD in the future, just like every year, or if you want to file to change it, you do that. I mean, we could come in and ask to remove or add things. That's what the PUD is for. That's why it exists in the way that it's written.
But your plan is to bring in a data center next to housing at some point.
It would replace everything. If it will work, we don't know. We're still in, that's the
It'd be
problem.
Plan B? Is that what
We are
it?
still in the
So it's-
stages of seeing if it'll work. We don't even know.
Right, so then that goes right back to the commitment.
No.
Okay,
I can't
got
commit-
it.
No, I can't commit to something if we don't know it'll work or not.
Yeah.
Okay,
So if you've already got a resident, from what I'm hearing, you can change things, do away with the resident part, and then just build a data center. Is that what you say?
If it's plausible. We don't know yet.
And you would do away with all the resident that you've already built.
It
And
won't be
then
built. That's
They wouldn't be built.
That project's gonna take so long to develop and build, that's not gonna happen overnight. There wouldn't be any vertical construction on this project currently as it sits for 12 months, 15 months. It'll take that long to get the site work done. And this was one of the reasons
Y'all-
we were trying to keep the
Thank you.
renewal separate, because the other has nothing to do with it yet until it's known if it will even work.
So,
I mean, we were just trying to focus on the Avamore renewal, just like it does every year, and the data center thing has taken off. It's something we have explored and don't know if it will work.
Okay,
And that's why
so-
we didn't want to include it in this and discuss it, but
right now, what you're trying to do is renew what's permitting the residential while you also explore a data center, and if it looks like all the things could be provided that you need, then you would change your project and just do data center over all the property. Am I understanding that
That is
correctly?
correct, and that would have to be filed and come back in completely.
Okay.
It would come up in front of the council to be done. It's not something that we can do. We have to file the plans, have meetings with y'all, and then.
And it would require a rezoning.
Yes, yes.
That would not happen now. Okay, all right.
Madam Mayor, may I just add
I
to
just
that?
wanted to make sure, I was trying, because it is confusing. So I thought that,
This is a request to simply extend Avamore, but in good conscience, the word has been out that there's been discussion of a data center. They asked to continue Avamore as you see it before you. Perhaps in the future, they'll come back and ask for a rezoning and an annexation. You have to vote on that before anything can be changed. If at some point something does change and this becomes data centers, it will be separated by, the data centers will be several hundred feet away from the residential that adjoins Avamore to the south. That may have been a question that was asked over here. I just wanted to make that clear. Tonight, it's just the extension of Avamore, so that if the Plan B, as you described it, doesn't work, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months when we come back to first seek annexation and rezoning, then Avamore can continue, just as it has already started.
and Plan B would have to be approved. Yes.
Yeah,
I mean,
nothing-
I'm just saying that for clarification.
Yes,
I know it has to,
absolutely.
because I know you can't do it with this zoning, but, okay.
And one
Counsel-
more
oh,
quick thing about the rezoning.
Mhm.
If it were rezoned for light industrial, you would condition it for data centers, so there'd never be an aluminum plant. It could be only the thing for which the rezoning were approved, data centers. If they fail, that zoning would go away.
Councilman McCoy?
Thank you. So another thing I'd like to get clear, and it might be Mr. Fowler, it might be staff, but so we're looking at let me clarify, we're looking at two different parcels. Am I right? That we're looking at one that's, when you talk about annexation, it seems that it's outside the city limits. That is what we're going to call that, or I'm going to call that the data center parcel. And the Avamore parcel is the one you are here talking about that is supposed to have the housing and the PUD and everything, correct?
In the future, it is tonight, it's only what you see before you.
For all intensive purposes, at this point in time, let's talk about tonight. So, is that, so that's what we're looking at. We're looking at data centers on something that I assume is Carroll County property, and the PUD is on something that's City of Villa Rica property, but the two properties line up, correct?
They adjoin, yes, ma'am.
Adjoin, that's what I meant, sorry. Okay, so right now your intention is to renew the PUD, but you're also exploring different options, correct?
Yes, ma'am. What happened was the Avamore people got approached by somebody else and said, would you think about doing something, getting rid of Avamore as it is now known, so that it can become combined with the Carroll County tract, add the Carroll County with this one, and make it entirely data centers, standalone, but that can never happen until it comes back before you. First for the annexation, then for the rezoning.
Okay, so there is potential y'all could go on, y'all could decide to go through with Avamore, and either it comes back to us for annexation and rezoning, and you will have a data center right next to it. Correct? That is potential. I think that's my question. Is it all or nothing? Is it one or the other, or is it going to be a combination, or can it be anything? I think that's where a lot of people are confused.
If there were ever data centers on the Carroll County property or this property, it would only be data centers. It would never be residential adjoining data centers in the Villa Rica property, known currently as Avamore.
Okay. So, and then my other thing I wanted to address is this was put on, this might go to the owners. This was put on hold last month for, there has been a whole month to come back. We put this on hold last month, and I'm sorry, my mind and my memory fail me. I don't know the specific reasons. I can't remember if it just wasn't prepared. We were just needing more information or something. There has been a whole month to come back. Now you're telling us that, oh, we'll come back in another month and have a plan. But yet this expires in 2 days.
No, the renewal was set for September 10th. We
Okay.
asked for an expansion a month ago of the PUD to include industrial specific to data center. Expand the PUD as it exists. We withdrew that so that we weren't involved in this when we came up tonight, so that we could just concentrate on the Avamore renewal that's been approved for 6 years and we have a permit on. So that we didn't have the data center noise all involved in it, because if that happens, it'll be a completely new application for that with the annexation, and that will all have to be put together in a package and filed with the planning department. And we were trying to keep one separate from the other because there is not enough information on the data center yet to discuss it. And that's why we were trying to separate it and keep it from Avamore, the subdivision renewal that's come up every 12 months. And that the first time a permit's been pulled on it, as far as I know, the prior owner kicked it around for a few years. But like I said before, we purchased it in December. We took off. We plan to develop it as is. We've been approached by a group asking us about the data center, and it has leaked out. It is not the secret in Villa Rica. Everyone knows about it. But we don't have enough information to move forward with it. That's why we are moving forward as it is. If the information works, where the water can be serviced, the gray water we talked about, the power, the fiber optic, all the things that go with it, then we will come with a plan to the city and say, this is what we've got. And if the city wants to support it, then we put together the package, we file it, and see what happens. But
Councilman Marchman?
We have a planning and zoning board. What was the decision from the planning and zoning board? Does anybody know? They did not.
Planning and zoning denied it. There was a vote of 2 and 1 abstention.
And their reasons were?
One of the abstention was because there wasn't enough information and he didn't feel comfortable kind of coming in the 11th hour to make a decision. And the other kind of rationale was because it was they didn't have a site plan. There was not enough information to go on, because the information that they did provide was there were renderings of the data centers. They were 170 feet tall, I think 11 stories. But then they said that they were going to be 1 stories in kind of a data center or data park. And so there was a lot of confusion as to what it was actually going to be when we did get the renderings and the site plan.
So in a nutshell, they didn't feel like they had enough information to make an educated vote?
If
Is
I
that
could jump in.
accurate? Yes. Mr. Drummond?
At planning and zoning, going into planning and zoning, there were 2 applications pending. Okay, there was the application that's before you tonight, which is a continuation of the PUD zoning that's been continued every year. And that PUD zoning includes a residential portion. The number of units has changed over the years, but last year there was an approval of, I could find the numbers, but
I think it's 303 multifamily and 222.
yeah. But it also included a commercial aspect, which was a retail space of 100,000 feet or less, office, business. There's a list of approved commercial spaces within that PUD. So that was one application, and annually that application has come back before council. It hasn't gone to P&Z because they've actually had their zoning. That zoning was conditional on council approving it for another year. This year it went to planning and zoning because they had a separate application pending, and I think that caused some confusion. This other application was to actually change the permitted uses within that PUD to add some industrial type use, the data center. They withdrew that part of the application, so that really wasn't voted on, or there was nothing to vote on, because that application is gone at this point. So right now, council would not be considering or approving anything to do with data centers or any changed use. It would be just continuing what's been on the books for years. We'd want to, if you approved it, I'd want some clarification that we're approving the same thing we did basically last year. They do have an LDP that was issued. This is actually the second LDP that was issued. One expired in the past, so if they don't make progress, these things expire. They don't last forever. So as far as the data center, if they wanted to pursue that, that would be a completely separate application. They would have to petition for an annexation and a rezoning. And actually, the way the law reads, council would consider, it'd go to P&Z first before it came to you, but council would have to consider the rezoning before the annexation, although the rezoning is conditional upon the annexation, if that makes any sense. I mean, they could theoretically just go to Carroll County and try to develop this project in Carroll County and keep us out of the loop on those properties. But if they want to do it inside the city, they have to ask permission, which is discretionary with this council. The council can always say, we do not approve the annexation. But you would actually consider the rezoning before, and it'd be immediately before, it'd be in the same meeting. But right now, that is not what they're asking for. That's not what the council should be considering. The council should be considering whether or not to approve for another 12 months or whatever period of time what's previously been approved.
So the only concern that pops in my head right off with that, because we've done this year after year, so right now, if council were to approve the renewal of Avamore, that's all the residential and commercial, not that it's going to occur, but the renewal of that application, how long could that go on? Well, it'd go on for another, I mean, at what point does somebody have to start building something?
That would be the.
We've got a new developer, but
That's true.
Last year, there were representations made that they thought they would be breaking ground at the end of the year and have
That's
a
true, yeah.
grocer in there.
That predated y'all. You're not
January of
responsible for
24,
that.
and-
Yeah. Yeah.
So, now, and I went back and reviewed both the work session and the council meeting from last year. I didn't see my bald head in the camera, but there was Ron was on staff at that point, presented on behalf of the city, and he indicated that the Three Rivers and one of the other conditions, the applications had been submitted. So I don't know if that's happened or not. We obviously haven't seen the results of those. There's 10 conditions, but some of those conditions can't really take place until you're in the construction phases. There had been, and you heard this afternoon, in the past, depending on where this project was going, there was discussions about moving the water tank, and I've got some notes where the city manager was talking with Carter and Sloop about some engineering issues with that, where to move it, and that the developer would actually put a larger tank, I think, on the property. There's been discussions about lift stations, and so there could be development agreements down the road. Right now, what's been issued is an LDP for phase 1, which is 14.6 acres, which is mainly the commercial portion of this development.
I think they have the acreage wrong on it when they issued it, because it's the multifamily, 50 single-family homes in the commercial, so I'm not.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that, I mean, there's been a lot of things we picked up trying to clean up with it. I mean, we bought it in December, we got the permit, it does say 14 acres.
I think that it's not on. There,
Is it on? Is that better?
he's not hearing it. Is the light
Is
on?
that better?
Much better, thank you.
We bought it in December. We've gone through a litany of items that we tried to work with prior staff and the new staff. And the LDP does say 14 acres, but phase one on the development plans encompasses the multifamily and some single family, so there's just a lot of things that, we've been trying to work through. The difference in us and the prior owners, he had it for years. It was a great concept, but putting it on the ground and having it funded is two different things. And we've got plenty of funding. We've got commitments to do the project either way. So that's the difference in us, and what I think we've done a lot here the past few months trying to get this thing off the ground, and that's what we're doing now. We're out there. We've started work, and one way or another, it's gonna happen. So, but yes, the one reason, as Mr. Drummond brought up, we withdrew that application on the expansion to keep the data center noise out of it, and just stick to the renewal of Avamore like it is. If the other happens, it happens. If it doesn't, then we're moving forward with what we have.
Is everyone clear from the discussion we've had, specifically what we're talking about that would be approved tonight? And what would have to come back for approval? Any other questions for staff or the applicant before we go to a public hearing?
I mean, my only thought, I just want to make clear. I mean, I think, Mayor, like you said, the data center idea is Plan B. That's not what's before us tonight. So what's before us tonight is a renewal of Avamore as we've known it, essentially in some different formation since 2018. In the event that they work out their details with the data center, then they have represented to us that they're going to come back later for that. So, this project has given me heartburn since 2019. And I remember having countless conversations with the previous owner, and we talk about the representations that were made in council. I would run into him at the post office, and he would make representations to me there too. However, I don't feel it's fair to hold that heartburn from the previous owner against this owner. They have a history. I mean, I've just researched them. They have a history and be able to fund these projects or do these projects. If they can, that'd be great for the city, whether it'd be great for the city for a couple of different reasons. One, it'll kind of help finally tie in that infrastructure down on the south side of the city on I-20, correct the chain of lift stations that are currently existing down there. So it could have some infrastructure bonuses. So I just want to, for everybody's edification on the council, I just want to make everybody knows that this is not about the data center tonight. When it becomes about the data center, an entirely new application will be before us, and we will discuss the appropriate data context then. And I think to Kevin's point, it's important that we don't confuse the issues before us. Previously in the past, I've used the hats analogy. This isn't exactly the hats analogy, but it's more of a let's not get too far of the creek without our rows analogy. Maybe that's better. So I just wanted to state that for the record. Thank you, Mayor.
Oh, yes, sorry,
Just
Councilman Warmoth.
Just a quick question.
Sure.
The plan for the PUD is exactly what's listed in the 2024 Avamore PUD renewal condition request? Because there's multiple conditions and each one is different. It's changed over the years when it's come before council. So I just want to be clear that that's what the renewal condition request is.
The letter that we filed with it, or what was approved in 2023?
This one just says on September 12th, 2023, the mayor and council. On my end, it's showing 2024 Avamore PUD renewal condition request, but the letter says on September 12th, 2023, the mayor and council of the city of Villa Rica approved an extension of the final concept plan of the PUD. Do you know what that may be?
We will Well, we had put a letter in trying to clarify some of the conditions through the years, but we'll withdraw that and go with what y'all approved last year. I mean, if that's what the city.
Well, I want you to know what you're agreeing to.
Is that,
There's conflicting
is that the letter with the
conditions
green
Yes,
highlight?
that one. That's what
the-
I'm
the
looking
permit,
at.
that's what it was pulled on.
And that was my questions toward Mr. Fowler was, you're basically asking for exactly what was approved last year to be
Yes.
continued, which is a little different. It is different from what's on the screen. It's close, but it's different.
That's what we were given a permit on. I mean.
See,
that's-
that one says including drive-through. I'm looking at the one that says non-drive-in. The highlighted, it's highlighted in green. There's two different letters that are attached. There's the 2021.
Yeah,
The
that's-
last attachment, September 13, 23. That's the one that with the green highlights, because I know we said no drive-through, drive-in type restaurants.
Yeah,
So
restaurant
We can
non-drive.
remove
Right,
the
but-
drive-through part of it if it was, we can remove that and not put that in there in ours, if, depending on how the permit was when it was issued also. That's the other thing.
So, Mayor, I think the letter dated September 13, 2023, if you read it, it is from Bobby Elliott, in which he states that on September 12, 2023, the mayor and council and the city of Villa Rica approved an extension to the final concept plan, and that it expires on September 12, 2024. So I think that letter would memorialize the conditions as most recently approved by council.
That's correct.
Yeah. Yeah, because there was, before that, each year it was renewed, there was different things added or pulled out. And this is what was, the permit was pulled on. And we're good with that, which removed the drive-throughs. We're good with that.
All right, any more questions for staff or the applicant? Yes, Councilman McCoy.
And this might be a dumb question, but, and I know the answer, but I just want to verify is, yeah, a PUD has to be mixed use, correct? That was actually for staff. Sorry, Kevin, Nina.
I don't think so, but I've never seen one without a mixed use. I mean, that's kind of the purpose of
No.
a
But you
PUD is-
can't have industrial in a PUD, right?
You could have anything the council will agree to put in the PUD.
Okay.
Yeah, the
The
council
PUD
creates
becomes
it.
its own zoning district, so whatever council approves is the zoning.
Yeah.
Fairfield is a PUD.
Huh?
Fairfield purely residential is a PUD.
Okay.
Well, an admitted area, a hotel, I guess. So maybe there's some commercial in there.
You
But-
can expand or add to or pull out.
Okay.
That's the
I just wanted to verify because that did help me. So in this letter from 2023, just understand that we're saying that this is what could be in the PUD, correct?
Yes.
These are the conditions of what can be in the PUD.
Those are the approved uses within the PUD.
Okay. Okay, that is what I wanted to be clear of.
If there's no more questions, I'm going to move into the public hearing. Is there anyone that wishes to speak for or against this item? Yes, ma'am. Name and address for the record. Is it off again?
You just gotta.
Susan Thompson Crane, 228 Lost Lake Way. I have met with Mr. Emery a couple different occasions. We've talked. Tonight's the first time I've heard 11 stories, I got to tell you. That was, I mean, I cannot imagine, you know, I'm a senior, believe it or not, and I would not want to look out my window and see an 11-story.
I don't think the 11 stories was actually an accurate statement.
It was not. So what are we talking about? Is it one story? Is
Well, listen, this is the time for you to speak for and
Okay.
against.
All
Now,
right.
you might give somebody up here an idea for a question, but
Okay. I was told by you that you were not building any houses, any of the multi-use. What you were wanting is the data center, not plural, but center. And now you're saying you're going to go ahead, if they approve this, you're going to go ahead and start building. What are you going to start building? Because you don't have the zoning and everything for the data center. what will you start building and how far will you get with that building? You know, until you get the approval of that. That's my question is, you know, you say you've started building or you're going to start building subsequently, and then the mayor said, how long is this going to take, or how long, you know, are you going to just start building and then argue the point of the data center, and is it going to take us 2 or 3 years, and by then you've got the subdivision built or whatever it is, multi-use, and then you're going to put a data center next to housing and stuff where you're using gray water and that kind of thing, because that does use a lot of water. We talked about that. I'm just really concerned about the wishy-washy back and forth. I know what you're trying to do is get the renewal before the 2 days are up or whatever the extension. I understand that. I just don't understand how you can say you're going to start building in hopes that at some point you'll get the data center. Because you told me you weren't putting anything out there except the data center. And I was told if the city says no, then you'll go to the county, because the county, Carroll County wants it. So I'm kind of like, is it a threat? Is it a, you know, I'm just a citizen here, and I really don't understand how this can work. To me, it seems like you should go through the entire process again, start from the first, go through the entire process. If you don't want to put a PUD housing in there, if you want to put a data center, let this PUD go and go get your refile for the data center.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there someone else that would like to speak for or against?
Luz Morales, 106 Legacy Drive, Villa Rica, Georgia. So I'm going to elaborate on what you're saying. From a planning and zoning, I think it's start over. The rational decision is to start over. Clearly, the developer is not sure whether they want a residential or a data center. Clearly, it's a better business decision for them financially to put in a data center. But today, they don't have the information or the resources or the infrastructure approved to do that. So they'd like a backup plan. Let's start over then. Get your resources, find out what you want to do, and come back with the right number of units, the right site plan. Because I will tell you, in planning and zoning, we had nothing to look at. We didn't know how many units, how many of this, how many of that. We couldn't look at anything. So it was not ethical for us to vote to approve to continue this process without having those things in front of us to make a factually based decision. The other thing I would say, there were multiple permit conditions that the city put on the developer when they issued the permit to start building. The staff has reported at our planning and zoning meeting and here tonight that those permit conditions have not been met to this point. I understand this is a new developer. I understand that they just purchased in December, but it is now September 2024, and all that has been put up is a silt fence. I can tell you right now, I could hire my teenagers to do that in about a weekend. So why hasn't more gotten done if we're working toward Avamore? I don't think enough's gotten done since that permit got issued. I'll leave you with this to give you some Tuesday night humor. If it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, talks like a duck, it's a duck, y'all.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anyone else that would like to speak for or against this? Go ahead. And Mr. Steele, you come up next. I don't think he hears
Jackie
me.
Childress, 1050 West Highway 78. What I think is, I think we need a new place to start over. This body of people and this council certainly knows what it is to inherit from bad people before you. We're still working through all that. We're going to be working through it a year from now with what we inherited from a bad mayor, a bad city manager. We're doing the best we can to move forward. We want you to be able to move forward. So in good faith, we'd like to see you wipe the slate clean, put the old owner behind you so there's no complications of who's put these numbers together and who wants to do this PUD and who wants to do that PUD. I realize that might be a hardship on you, but in the long run, I believe it's in your best interest as well as the community's best interest to have a clear-cut beginning point, if you will. And we'll discuss the rest of it if it ever comes to if it ever comes to be, we'll discuss that then. But I'd like to see us wipe the slate clean, submit a new application, and let's go from that point. But I'd also like to see in that application that the planning and zoning or the council or whomever put some stipulations in there that in 6 months' time, we'd better see some construction. We'd better see some moving forward, or that application needs to be canceled and not renewed under any circumstances.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Steele? Done. Anyone else that would like to speak for or against?
Joseph Ludeman, 15001 Veterans Memorial Highway. In 2018, when I come and got my original, in the 4th-month process of getting my original conditional use permit, the prior owners was here asking for this PUD to be approved. And during that, there was several discussions about the home sizes being smaller than the Carroll County recommends. So I'm not sure if you know, because I'm not sure y'all even know what you're voting on, but I'm not sure you know what's on these PUDs, because from that night, my recollection, it was 800 square foot homes that was being built that night. And in Carroll County, it's supposed to be a minimum 1,200. Another thing that Mr. Montahan said, he thinks this is a good thing for city of Villa Rica. Well, that's part of the problem we have already, is all these good things with the apartment complexes. 325 multi-use homes are going to be probably turned into Section 8 or rental houses, and they're going to, not one of you have brought up the city schools that you have. They rezoned it this year to downsize it. Y'all have added, 4 apartment complexes? 5, 6, I don't know. I've lost count. So all that's a strain on the school system. And I haven't heard anybody bring up anything about the school system, or, where are we at with the school system? Are we donating anything to help the school system with all the new development? Are we making them do anything for the new school? I'm a business owner, and I'm a property owner. I don't have very deep pockets, but they started this in 2018. It took me 3 years to do a fence. It's taken them 6 years to find a new landowner to take their problems. I think y'all have a good chance here to wipe the slate clean, have them come back with a proper application. Don't approve an extension on the HUD.
Thank you. Anyone else that would like to speak for or against? I was about to say, going once. You got in under the wire.
You don't see me do this very often, but I agree with Matt. If it came to fruition and this PUD came about and we did build the homes, I agree. He's made a good valid point with the infrastructure. Yes, it could possibly help that daisy chain of lift stations that is a problem, because then you start essentially building bigger ones that can handle it. Now, he also said they were going to use gray water, right? So it'd be recycled water. So it'd be on-site treatment, and it'd just be recycled water. You can either vote it tonight and vote it down and say, hey, wipe the slate clean, come back, get a whole new plan, come before us, and we'll talk about it again. Of course, in that time, what happens? Matt brought up a valid point again today. What happens if they come back before y'all and say, okay, we're going to wipe it clean for you, and they come back and want to rezone it, industrial, commercial, and then what? You're not going to be able to stop whatever. If as long as it's legal, you ain't going to be able to stop them from building it, really? As long as it's legal? If they go to Carroll County like they're saying and ask them to, hey, we'll just come over here and next over here and build it over here. they're still building it. Either way, it's gonna get built. Whether it's on the Villa Rica side or the Carroll County side, something's gonna be built. We've seen this. We didn't think all these apartments were gonna be built either. But guess what? They're standing. They're built. We can sell land that was given to us by Tanner Medical to a developer and let him build houses back behind Bojangles. But we can't let this man build a little community. I mean, he's got to come back before y'all if he wants to build the data center. That's already been said, right? I sure wouldn't want him to come back and say, let's rezone this. And then you're faced with a whole different scenario. I sure wouldn't want to be y'all's shoes.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else that would like to speak for or against this item?
Yes,
Ms.
what,
Evans.
Charlotte Evans, 640 Cleary Street. I agree with what he said before with the infrastructure. It's desperately needed no matter what part of the county it's in or city. I don't like the possibility of them coming back for industrial rezoning. As a matter of fact, I will go ahead and ensure that I will fight any industrial rezoning in this city, period. I will go to the county and do the same. You can ask them when I get on something, I stick to it. All of y'all can attest to that. As far as the mixed use, commercial and residential, while I wish there wasn't as many homes, whether it be single family, senior, multifamily dwellings, I really would rather not have that, but it beats having an industrial part. I will reiterate, Carroll County will see me if we try to go industrial on that parcel that butts up to it, because I do not believe we need data centers this close to city limits. So while that's not there, I do think that starting fresh is probably not the best idea, because like you said, it's coming back. We can wipe the slate clean. Let's go industrial. And then they can put truck stops. They can put manufacturing facilities that we might not necessarily want to see. What I'd like to see there is something other than kudzu, something other than what we have now, maybe adding toward bringing more people in, finding a different industrial space to have this away from city limits. Go further out in the county. Bowden has a lot of land. So does Bremen and further out towards Whitesburg and all that. That's where the data centers need to go, away from population. But I think maybe putting stipulations on tonight, all right, there's already stipulations not met that they've had plenty of time to do. We need to give them a time limit from, okay, well, here we go. Get this to us in 60 days. And then once that's there, readdress that and then give them another time limit. Okay, you've got, from this time period, you've got 6 months to break ground and get some houses built, get a store and some restaurants put in, something. Because there's already a ground plan. Figure it out, get it done. We don't need to sit here and talk any more about this. But I do see that we don't need to go industrial, which is we start scratch. That's exactly where they're going to go, because that's exactly what they want to do. Not without a vote.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else that would like to speak for or against this item? Going once, going twice? Okay, I'll refer back to the council. Are there any further questions from council for staff or the applicant?
I just kind of have a statement.
Go ahead. Yeah, it's fine.
After hearing the comments and the developer and Kevin and everything, my thought process is it's the devil you know versus the devil you don't know. And right now, the devil we know is a PUD with maybe drive-throughs, and
no drive-throughs.
No drive-throughs. Well, I said maybe. I said maybe. But right now, the devil we know is more housing, more apartments. The devil we don't know is light industrial. So either way, they have to come back and get rezoned. So right now, that parcel of land is zoned for the Avermore development, which has houses, has apartments, has a commercial component, has that. It's not zoned for anything else but that. That is what we know. That is what they're asking to renew tonight. If we wipe the slate clean, it can come back with anything. And that it could be anything. It doesn't even have to be industrial. So that is where my mind is right now.
Just to clarify, and correct me if I'm wrong, if it were to come back, it could not be anything that doesn't fit within the zoning. So if it required a zoning change, and we can say no to a zoning change. So I just want to be clear on that. It can't just come back and turn into something. It is zoned a particular way right now. Yes, Councilman Wormuth.
Okay, so, again, after listening to some of the public comments, I definitely appreciate those who spoke. Mr. Ledman had mentioned that none of us had brought up schools. As a mom, I promise you, schools are definitely on my top priority. None of the apartments, or actually I don't think any of the townhomes or any of those have been approved since I have been on council, and I've been on council since November. So all of those were approved long before. They're just now being built is the thing. And this one was a year ago, which is why it's coming. This was approved over a year ago, I guess, and that's why it's coming back to us now. I do greatly appreciate the point that we have to know what we're voting for. And I'm not exactly sure, I will admit, I'm not exactly sure what the stipulations are for the requirements of those homes. And there have been so many different changes of these conditions that I'm not exactly sure what those changes have been. And so I need to know exactly what it is that I'm voting for before I am comfortable approving something like this.
Anything else from council?
Mayor.
Yes, Councilman.
So just to clarify, Mr. Ludeman, I didn't say that this was necessarily agreed with the apartments or the housing. What I said was that the ultimate development of this property would be important, or it would be a good thing, because it would provide the infrastructure improvements that it had been intended to provide since 2018. Like Mr. Evans said, it would help minimize the daisy chain of lift stations that we have, where each developer built a lift station for their specific neighborhood instead of into a network, because there's a lack of planning by administrations past. It also helped us redirect the water and sewer infrastructure into where it's no longer going all the way down from I-20 down to the V-Plex and then shooting back up, kind of, unknowingly why is doing that. But again, when you patch together infrastructure like had been occurring in decades past, you're going back and you're cleaning up these issues. And this development, since for as long as I've been on council, has been a linchpin in trying to resolve those infrastructure issues, and it's been essentially held up. And that goes back to some of the frustrations I expressed earlier about this project, whereas everyone else is coming out of the ground and they were approved much more recently than 2018, 2019. This project's been sitting there, and all the best we got were some road work ahead signs that will cause everybody to slam their brakes on when there's no road work or no work to be done anywhere. So nevertheless, and I'm a little concerned that, and I guess there was some confusion. I wasn't here at that P&Z evening, but 2018, since 2019 at least, we've had this book right here, which was the zoning book for Avamore. In previous times that this matter has been before the council, there was also a site plan. So it sounds like staff did not provide these materials to the Planning and Zoning Commission. I'm sorry? or the public. But they've all been of record every single year that this matter has come before council. So that sounds like there was an issue there. And I know, and again, I guess except for Mr. Carter and Mr. Marchman, I've been dealing with this longer than I have. I mean, I was the one that essentially 2 years ago, I think, read Mr. Davis the Riot Act essentially for giving him one last chance for this development. Because, again, it's just been frustrating. But I feel like I can't really hold that against this current owner because they seem to be well motivated and well funded to actually do something with this project. And then further, I want to say again, I know there's been talk about a data center, but that is not presently before us. And so, like Councilwoman McCoy said, we have the devil we know versus the devil we don't. Some people in this audience have told me, I just want to see Avamore like it is. Well, essentially, if we vote tonight, we're asking the developer to develop Avamore like it is. Okay? If and when the developer says, maybe I do want to put a data center there. Maybe they get their ducks in the row. If they want to come back in and modify it, then that issue would be before us as a separate matter. And I don't, again, want to cross all these hairs up and confuse this issue. It's already confusing enough. So that being said, I think I will be voting in favor of the devil we know this evening.
If there are no other questions or comments, I will entertain a motion.
Guess I will make the motion. All right. So I will make the motion. Since we don't have a proposed motion in favor, I'm going to have to fly this off my head. So help me out, Kevin. I'm going to make a motion to extend the renewal of the Avamore PUD for an additional 12 months, subject to the conditions as stated in the September 13th, 2023 letter from Bobby Elliott, Ronald Johnson.
I thought the letter was from Mr. Elliott also, but it's also the same conditions that were approved by this council on September 12th, 2023.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, what about the three conditions that staff has recommended? The updated review letter from Three Rivers, the traffic analysis.
There were a total of 10 conditions. Those were 3 of the 10 conditions.
Okay, those 3 haven't been met yet.
That's my understanding.
And it would be conditional on those being met?
Well, I guess I'll make a condition. Second condition is that the submittal of the updated review letter from Three Rivers Regional Commission, the submittal of an updated traffic analysis, and the submittal of a detailed plan on the proposed movement of the water tower would need to be submitted to the Community Development Department and City Engineer within 6 months of this council meeting.
I'm going to second that.
All in favor? Any opposed?
Motion passes 4-1.
That took a minute. Okay, financial update. Ms. Hallman.
You ready?
Okay. Just give us 1 minute for people that want to leave, and then it'll settle down. Okay, you're on.
Okay. This is the financial update as of July this year. We will start with cash. You can see our total cash is $49.6 million, with 10.7 in the general fund, 7.3 in the water and sewer, $353,000 in sanitation and solid waste,
$1.1 million in stormwater. The East Side TAD bond proceeds at 12.2. The debt service is just under $1 million. And then you have the 2015 Carroll Splost at $140,000, 2016 Douglas Splost at $3.4 million, 2021 Carroll Splost at $7.8 million, and the 2022 Douglas Splost is $2.5 million. As far as our residential permits and taps, through the month of July, we've had 205 building permits, totaling $423,000, 145 water taps at $218,000, and 135 sewer taps at $540,000. Our local option sales tax is still performing very well. On the Carroll County side, we experienced an increase of 6%, receiving $211,000 compared to $200,000 last year. And Douglas County experienced a 12% increase from last year. We received $192,000 this year versus $172,000 last year. Water and sewer is one of our business activities, or what you would call an enterprise fund. Through the month of July year to date, it's $9.6 million in revenue and about $9.4 million in expenses. So right now we have a net income of $194,000. Sanitation and solid waste is the second enterprise fund that we have. Our total revenue is $1.4 million. Our expenses are $1.3 million, so we have a net income of $118,000. Our self-funded insurance, our bank balance cash is almost $1.7 million. We did have some rough few months as far as our expenses exceeding our contributions in that fund, which is common. I think they say every 3 to 5 years you have like a high year for claims. But you can see for July we had $212,000 in contributions and $147,000 in expenses. So we actually had savings of $65,000, and we're almost breaking even through July with a loss of only $1,532. That is it.
That's good to know. It's nice to see that change on there. And I don't know if I asked you this before, with the sales tax coming in higher, whether it be Douglas County or Carroll County, do you think that's also related? I mean, obviously, we're still buying things, but do you think it's also related to the fact that things cost more, so
Yes.
people are paying more tax?
I agree. I think
Okay,
it's-
all right. And I appreciate your professional opinion on that. All right, questions from council? You're released. Thanks, Jennifer. Ms. Hallman.
Yes.
All right, city managers report. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Oh, goodness gracious. I'm like totally off here. Yes. Finance adoption of the FY25 budget.
Yes. You have before you the resolution that we're asking for your approval on. Total budget, including the general fund, all the special revenue funds, all the capital funds, as well as the enterprise funds, with your largest one being the water and sewer fund, totals $56,438,846. This includes adjusting the revenues down due to the millage rate rollback, and offsetting by reducing the expenditures in order to provide you a balanced budget. And those reductions were, just to kind of recap on those, we removed the vacant public information officer position. We also removed a new grounds equipment operator position, and we reduced the North Avenue Chapel reno from $258,000 to $92,000. Those reductions allowed us to offset the reduction in the revenue and bring forth y'all a balanced budget for 2025.
I don't know if anyone else has asked for this other than we know things that were cut. And I went through, looked at the list, and you look for the line over here, what's requested. Then you look over here, and then you go down a few lines between, try to find the next one. and no rush on this, but
Mm-hmm.
could we get it just compact? These are the items that were cut
Sure.
and the cost. And as we go through the year, if there's additional splost or whatever it might be, maybe we can, I guess we can figure out the priority as it goes with talking with you and department heads.
Yes, absolutely.
But I think that might be helpful for us
Mhm.
so that if those things were important enough, and I'm not saying they can't be wish list too, but I think we can look at them and see what else we can add back in.
Sure.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's a lot easier to briefly look at it than to try to look through those little lines and keep looking across to try to figure out which one was funded and which
Make
one
you
wasn't.
cross-eyed
And they're
sometimes.
mixed in between the ones that were funded, so,
Yes.
yeah, it does. After you've done all these pages enough times, your eyes start to bleed.
Yes.
Okay, questions? Council, this is the budget. This is the big night. I know we've done a lot of that. We've had work sessions and everything else. So now's the time if you have any other remarks or questions.
Okay.
I said what I needed to say in the work session.
Okay.
Okay.
I missed the work session, so I'm sorry.
Oh.
Because I
Okay.
had to leave early. So, I've been on the city council since 2019. And, people used to ask me all the time, they would say, how do you like being on city council? And I said, oh, I like being on city council. But every year we would do this budget since 2019, and I would feel like it is probably the most stressful time of being on city council because we were always faced with the basic that we just didn't have any money. We had to do all this stuff, and when we didn't have money, We had to do all this, we didn't have money. The last 2 years, though, this council has approved a reduction in the millage rate, rolled it back. Because all that growth and stuff that a lot of folks don't like, and I don't like it myself, is helping pay and fund the city. And so we've been able to balance a budget and essentially give everything that staff has asked us to do with rolling back the millage rate. This year, rolling back the millage rate resulted in a decrease in revenue of $287,000. But this was also the first year in which staff came to us and asked for two things, or two and a half things. Full implementation of a salary study and a 3% COLA, plus additional salary increases to offset certain duties and requirements by staff. The entire personnel for the budget is $16.1 million. Last year was $14.6 million. That's an approximate. I'm sure the numbers can be crunched more specifically. The difference is $1.5 million. About $710,000 of that comes from implementation of the salary study and the COLA. So if we take that $700,000 and we add in the $287,000 that we would have got if we didn't roll back, that's almost $1 million that we could have used elsewhere in this budget. For the first time in my time on council, we actually had the money to do something. $1 million that we really never realized before since I've been on council. So what's not in this budget? Blowing the dust off the Gold Nugget Trail after how many years it's been sitting on the shelf. Design or engineering and doing something about the intersection at Tolbert Road and South Carroll Road. Moving forward with some sort of design or implementation of the V-Plex renovation. I'm sure there are others I can't think of right now. Oh, yes, the golf cart paths on Edge Road that we had also talked about in staff. Some of these things were things that constituents come to us all the time and tell us, where's that? What's going on with this? How can we address this? What can this? And for the longest time, it was, we have to rely on SPLOST for that. We have to rely on LMIG. We have to find a way to pay for it somehow, some way, and we just don't have the money. But this year, we had $1 million extra. For the first time since I've been on city council, we had the money. But instead, we spent $700,000 of that on fully implementing the salary study and the COLA. Listen, I love staff. I love everything y'all do. You are the front door to the community. I'm all in favor and support of paying competitive wages that compete with our neighboring cities. I'm hesitant to see more than half $1 million. Our mill this year is $1.2 million. More than half of a mill is going to go in 1 year to personnel. That's just been my hesitation about this whole thing. So I'm not going to vote against this budget tonight. I'm going to vote for it. But I want staff to take a look at this city and think, in 2025, what are the concerns you're hearing from the constituents? What are the concerns you're hearing from council persons when they come to you and they say, hey, what about this intersection or that intersection? And then, if we have the revenue again, let's put some of those in our budget request, because that's the other thing that just kind of burns me a little bit, is that when we look at the expenditures, none of these issues that I talked about as examples were there to be cut. We couldn't even point to them as, well, we had to cut that, because they weren't even on the table. They weren't even presented. And that is what ultimately just gave me so much frustration this budget season. Because I felt like for the first time we had some money, but the frustration then came from, wow, this is how we chose to spend it. So that's just my statement.
Yes, Councilman Warmoth.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you're in agreement of approving the budget. I'm a little disappointed to hear some of your statements. It's important to take care of our people first and foremost. I believe that when we increase their salaries where it should be, which, by the way, we wouldn't have to increase our staff's salaries to the point where we have to increase them right now, had we increased them little by little along the way. It wouldn't be quite as much of a jump had it been small increases. Think about our water and how we've had to slowly go ahead and make those increases on the water bill so it's not such a hard hit all at once on our citizens. When the staff's morale is up because they are compensated fairly, then when the constituents come to us and we go to the staff to handle those concerns or to get answers to those questions, then that staff member will be much more willing to help us in getting those answers and addressing those concerns. I am 100% for this increase. I feel that the government, that we have failed the staff in the past by not giving them a pay increase before. Our staff has been underpaid for years, and they have still stuck with us. We have staff members who have stuck with us to the point where you have new employees coming in who are making close to, if not more, than people who have been working here for years. How unfair is that? I, for one, would have already been gone and gone ahead and, hey, if I'm invested, it would make more sense to go ahead and go elsewhere where I'm compensated and appreciated, valued for my work. I, as a photographer, price my work at where I am valued. I tell people where I am valued, and that's where I'm priced. Everyone wants fair compensation. Everyone deserves fair compensation. And when people are fairly compensated, the work that they put out is quality work.
If you call my
I
office,
wasn't going to say exactly what Ms. Winoff said, but that was what I was going to say. She just put it in a different way. But I do agree with her because I think when they did a raise at one time, they didn't get what they were supposed to get. They got part of it. And so now to get them, like I said, some of them been working 20 years and getting this price, this pay, and then you're going to hire somebody at the pay rate, and they're making more than them. I just don't see that. You get what you pay for. And for morale, if you get them, I got it on. For morale, if they feel like they're treated fair, they might work better. Or they'll feel better coming to work every day. Because I hear from some of the employees talking about their salary. And they probably would do better if they was getting paid what they deserve. So I agree with, she said it better than I could say it. But anyway, I'm for the approving of the budget.
Councilman Montahan.
if you call my office and one of my staff members tell you that I'm not going to serve you as a client because Matthew's not paying me enough, then I need to have a conversation with that employee. Because that is not the business of the constituent dealing with the staff.
I don't think any of our staff is saying they're not paying us enough.
That was the kind of the logic you inferred there.
That is absolutely not what I said.
The mayor picked up on the same logic you inferred, but nevertheless. Again, I'm not saying that our employees should not be compensated competitively with our neighbors. I am in favor of implementing the salary study alone. That would break up this issue. There are, another thing is talking about morale. We also recently had a report from our HR department that told us that we probably have as little or as few openings in this city than we've had for a while. So people are staying, and people are continuing to come here, despite the paltry salary that they must be making for the city of Villa Rica. So I don't believe it's as dire as it's been characterized, but nevertheless, it is the budget that's before us, and without tearing this thing up and picking it apart, I'm just going to go ahead and hold my nose and vote for it.
Mayor, can I comment on something?
Of course you can.
Well, let me just say this on behalf of the employees. So the employees came to you with a budget that was bigger than the one that you're looking at. When that salary study number was chosen, they went back, your department heads went back and cut the budget to reflect that $700,000. So to your point, there was actually more money in this year's budget to do the things that you're talking about. But I want to make this point, because I'll be leaving you after next month. The most important aspect or asset that you have in this city are the employees that work for you. Mm-hmm. I can tell you that for a fact. I've been doing this 42 years. And to your point about paltry salaries, no one in the city has said, I've never heard an employee say, I make a paltry salary here. I've never heard an employee say, I'm going to give you less effort than I gave you. If you pay me more money, I'm going to work harder. That's ridiculous. Nobody would say that, and if they did, I'd fire them on the spot.
Agreed.
But here's the thing I want you to remember. The employees didn't ask for a salary study. The council did. And that salary study was done by an outside firm that you all chose. And they came back with a report that said that the employees made less than what all the employees in this area make. That's what the report said. The fallacy in the report was, in the way that it was executed in the past, was, as Ms. Shirley said, and Stephanie, people actually were hired in making more than people that had been here 15 or 20 years. No one can dispute that fact. One employee got a 1 penny raise.
Well, that's just
1
dumb.
penny.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, somebody knew that was happening at a
Somebody
higher
knew that was
level
happening, but the
because
purpose
we
of-
didn't know.
So let me just make this statement, and I respect you, and I respect this entire council and the mayor. Y'all know that. You should never ask for something that you're not going to follow. If you're going to pay taxpayer money for a wage study, and that wage study tells you to do X, if you've got the money to do that, then you should do it, or just don't spend the taxpayer money to start with. Because what happens is, that's when morale gets low. We have employees that are doing open records requests to find out what the salary study said. Now, that's not because they're trying to be divisive. They're still working here, and I don't even know who these employees are, but I know they are. So if I could implore you, and it sounds like, I don't know what the vote's going to be tonight, but arguably the most important thing that I've done for you in the last 5 months is this budget that we're talking about right now. If you don't implement this salary study, and if you don't implement that 3% COLA, I can promise you next year, when that TAD payment comes up, you're not going to have that option. Just remember that. Thank you.
Mayor, may I?
Yes, sure.
So the issue with the salary study and the COLA is that this is recurring. So when the TAD payment comes up next year, the money that we're spending this year is going to have to be spent next year. Unless we tell people that we're going to roll back the salary study, which we wouldn't do that. So we're increasing our budget on personnel to $16.1 million. That's it, $16.1 million. It's never going to go less than $16.1 million. Because this is a recurring cost. It's not like getting engineering done, that was a one-time cost, or it's recurring costs. Unless we terminate people or unless we furlough them, that's the only other way you're going to reduce the amount of your personnel payroll. So, but to the point about implementation of the salary study, you're correct. We, as this council, did vote to implement it. It was decisions made by the administrative staff, your predecessor, that decided not to do that. That person may have had their own reasons. I don't know why. I haven't spoken to that person about it. But so we did, as a council, what we believed to be the right thing, a salary study and then implement it. At some level, the idea was to implement it over phases. That's why that person only got a penny raise. Maybe in the second or third year of the salary study, they would have got more of the implementation. I don't know. I don't know all the details of each individual employee and their circumstance. But the idea that we're going to use the TAD payment, I've said this the entire budget season, the TAD payment was a scare tactic for us not to roll back the millage rate. And in hindsight, I wish I actually made a motion to reduce the millage rate down less than what the rollback rate was, but I didn't do that back then, but here we are anyway. That's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
No matter.
I have a comment.
Okay, just a moment. Hang on. No matter, because this isn't a closing. No matter where we are on either side, open government can be messy. And I don't care which person I agree or disagree with. I appreciate the honesty. I don't want you to be fake up here. I don't want you to say anything you don't believe. As long as we're civil with one another, I want to know what you really think about it. And so I appreciate the honesty. It doesn't, whether we agree or not. and I'll just say this, because I'm not going to say a lot and I won't be voting on this. Part of the reason that the budget became in better shape was those water and sewer rates that we gradually raised to meet cost. We were basically selling water for less than it cost to make, and we were using money from the general fund, taking it from the general fund and putting it over in the water and sewer fund that's supposed to sustain itself. So when we stopped doing that and upped those rates, and it was uncomfortable for all of us. I mean, I got water-saving devices in the house. But once we did that and gradually increase those rates, get closer so that it could be in the black, we wouldn't be in the red anymore. We would be, in fact, we'd be above, so we could actually make water and sewer repairs and be prepared for the future. Then the general fund became healthier. And aside from that, you know, we had those rates, that salary study, but here's the part that really seemed unfair to me when it came to the salary study, is it wasn't right for people to come in to a new job. I don't even know why that gets done that way. It seems to me you would take care of the people there before you bring people in at a rate so they're going to walk in at the same amount. But the fact that I know that we approved a study and it wasn't implemented is not good. So while I know myself, I struggle with the amount of money to catch up, at the same time, I struggle with the fact that we were supposed to implement that and somewhere, and may have been unaware of it, but it didn't happen. Whether we were aware of it or not, it had the same result. It never got instituted for our employees. But I will say there's always going to be a difference. Employees who've been in government, been involved in government, from education, everything else. There's going to be those employees that get out there and work their rear end off, and there's other people that ride a little easier, no matter what their pay is. But that's up to good management and department heads to take care of that. And so as we move forward, I do hope, and I know we've implemented the evaluations again. That was a problem. We had no idea the evaluations weren't occurring anymore. That was always a big deal. So that means there may be people getting paid that would have had sorry evaluations. But we don't know because they weren't getting done. But that was a management decision. It predated y'all. It's not your fault. That's getting done now, isn't it? So I think we need to feel confident that y'all are going to give the best employees and that you're going to hold people to account, and the department heads will do that. And I do feel bad about the fact that it was not implemented. That should not have happened to our staff. Yes, ma'am, Ms. McCoy, or Councilman McCoy. That's fine.
Well, I apologize. I don't know the personal history of everybody on this council. I really should, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say, except for maybe Mr. Reese, I'm the only one up here who was actually a government employee. I sat and I had people hired in above me who made more money when they just got out of college, and I have been working there 5, 7, whatever years. I've done that. I was furloughed in 2009 after having my second child because of the economic downturn. Then I had to take 6 furlough days a year, I think it was 3 a semester. Anyway, I've sat here and I do have a soft spot for the staff when it comes to salaries and all this stuff, and everything that has been set up here, every opinion from Matthew's to Leslie's to Stephanie's. There are parts I agree with, but I have never had a year where someone got a salary reclass and got a COLA. And I understand that is to get us to the point where we're supposed to. And the one thing I'm going to leave you with is a person, or there's 2 things I'm going to leave you with. And when I was talking in the work session, I was talking about opportunity cost. And this really is about when y'all come up and y'all tell us, well, why didn't this get paved? Why didn't this? Why didn't that? It's not just salary. There's other things that happen and come on that could possibly lead to that. We only have so many resources, whether it's people, whether it's money, or it's something. And sometimes it's just too complicated to sit here at 8:20 on a Tuesday night to go into. I don't think anybody wants to go into I know Jennifer doesn't want to go into the finite detail of why this amount is this right now tonight. So with that being said, is that I think in government, y'all talk about us being transparent. You talk about knowing where everything is. One thing, I'm glad Matthew said something, because y'all do, as the constituents, y'all need to know where your money goes. It doesn't need to be glazed over, and you can, I mean, look, this is our budget, y'all. This is our budget. I've been carrying this thing around for what, 2 months now. This is our budget. I don't think if employees who aren't I'm sure finance is sick of looking at this, and I'm sure there are employees in other departments that are like, thank God I don't have to do that. This is our budget. Y'all need to know where it goes, and that's what I agree with Matthew with telling y'all. On the other end, I do agree that the employees do need to be compensated fairly. Like I said, I have had everything. I had my boss, I have been there 2 years. She brought in her best friend to make $10,000 more than I did. I have gone through the ringer in government work, and there's not anything any of y'all can tell me that I haven't been through before. So with that being said, though, as constituents, y'all need to know where your money goes. Y'all need to know why we spent on this, what we did, and the reason for it. Right now, the reason is we're compensating our employees. That is where the money is going, and that is why I'm glad we've had this conversation from all of our perspectives.
Mayor, are you ready for a motion?
If there's no other comments, I am definitely ready for a motion.
Okay, I'm going to make that motion. I'm going to make a motion that we approve the revised 2025 operating and capital budget as presented.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed?
Mayor,
Didn't need to-
I'm sorry.
Yes.
May I just say something just for the record, just because
Sure.
it didn't sit well with me, and maybe I took it more personal. I can promise you that the TAD discussion that I had with each and every one of you was not a scare tactic. If it was taken that way, it was not because if that's the way that I was presenting it or my staff was presenting it to you. It was numbers that we had to go and find to see where we were at so that we would know where we need to go. So to say that it was a scare tactic, I take that personally, because that's not how I operate. I've been in government for 25 years. I speak just facts. Whether you like the facts or you don't, or it causes you to be scared or not, that's on you. But that's not my tactic, is to scare somebody into making a decision. I want you to make a decision because you trust me in giving you information, and then you can make the decision on however you want to. But it's not my tactic to be scared or to have a scare tactic. I just want to make that point clear.
Mr. Reese, I'm going to look and make sure. No, we're not. We're doing Carol tomorrow agreement first. It's going to be a little longer.
And I'll be brief. There's one other thing that I do want to say. Thank you. It actually is kind of hard to see that the light's not on, just in anybody's defense of who didn't push it the way this light illuminates. So sorry about that. Diana DeSanto, Deputy City Manager. Before I talk about Carol tomorrow, I just want to thank the finance team for all the work that they put on this budget. This is a very, very, very long process that they've been going through a really long time. All the department heads, thank you for your contributions. I appreciate the Finance Committee for coming in and meeting with us. Two jobs, essentially. There's a lot that's done throughout the year, but that is the budget preparation and then the annual audit, and they don't get a break in between. So I just thank you guys very much. Okay. So for Carol tomorrow, this came up earlier. This is actually associated with the current 2024 budget. And in the 2024 budget adopted, there was a $75,000 pledge to Carol tomorrow. This would be year 2. So even though we're at the end of 2024, this would be year 2. 2025, that you've just approved, will have a 3rd year pledge, but this is for the 2nd year.
And I do have one update. Unfortunately, no one from Carroll tomorrow was able to make it this evening. Like I said, we do have like I stated earlier today, we do have a meeting with them tomorrow afternoon as well as next Monday. But they wanted me to just share some updates briefly. They are excited for potential projects in Villa Rica. From an industrial standpoint, currently we have 2 industrial build-to-suit opportunities, and this is what we are actually meeting about tomorrow. Villa Rica is a finalist for what's called Project Apple, which is a healthcare company that would be making a large investment in the community. On the retail mixed-use project side, we're delighted about the momentum that downtown Villa Rica and other locations within Villa Rica are seeing and will continue to see. Gabe's is a huge win for downtown Villa Rica, and we hope will be a domino effect in reinforcing local businesses' importance in the downtown landscape. We're closely monitoring other opportunities and will continue working with the City of Villa Rica, the Villa Rica Downtown Development Authority, Villa Rica Main Street, and the Villa Rica Development Authority to pursue continued positive impacts to the community. Our headwinds continue to be product development, infrastructure constraints, and delivery. We hope that working closely with the City of Villa Rica and Carroll County, we can overcome some of these opportunities and foster strategic economic development. So kind of to Ms. Councilwoman Warmoth's point earlier, in terms of, what all do we get versus chamber, they really are our economic development wing, since we do not have an internal economic development department. And this is just a short list of some of the things that they're currently working on, as well as some of the things they mentioned earlier in a report provided during council workshop.
Thank you. There's not really an action to take.
I've got one.
Is there? I have no.
I have the motion in front of me.
Okay, good. I have no attachment.
Oh.
I went back to the work session.
Comment.
Okay.
I have a comment because this was a long, lengthy discussion today, and I kind of let it. So my comment is that this isn't, I totally don't agree with this. I don't think we're getting what we're supposed to be getting out of this. But this is a 5-year thing, and this is next year's budget. But this year's, I apologize, thank you. It's that time of year. I will say this. I don't like it, but I'm going to approve it, I think. I'm still on the fence. But I don't want to hear, I want to see something this year. I don't want to hear next year, because I'm not the only person. Every year it's a different person. I want to see something. I want to see something in downtown. I want to see something in the old O'Charlie's thing. That's not a Longhorn. That really, when they spoke at our workshop and they said that, they're looking at putting a Longhorn in the old Charlie's, and maybe it was just, and I'm not good with words, but hyperbole might be the right word. This is why I do math for a living. But they said that when it was right next door to a small business that was Villa Rica owned. That told me that they did not understand our community. They did not do their research, and now they're asking for $75,000. I would like to say, this is in the budget. I might approve it. I don't know. But anyway, I don't want one of us to have this conversation next year. All of us up here, I don't want this conversation next year. I want to see something.
I understand.
Councilman Warmoth.
Is this a 1-year or a 5-year agreement?
So this is year 2 of a 5-year pledge, but as documented, one council cannot bind another council. So what I'm asking for approval tonight was the council that was present for last year's budget for the FY 2024 adoption, what happened this time a year ago. That was approved as I'm presenting to you tonight. I'm just late to the game in terms of presenting, but mostly because I just started about 2 months ago.
So we would approve this year to year?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I actually spoke at the workshop. Gosh, it's late. I spoke at the work session that, hey, this would be their opportunity to prove what they could do over the year. And then Councilwoman McCoy had mentioned about the Longhorn right next to Brothers. And that really bothered me because we have to look out for our small businesses, and the idea that they would be willing to put a corporation or a franchise right next to one of our small businesses cannot compete with those franchise. There's no comparison. It's different when you're talking about putting a franchise down the street or around the corner, but when you're putting it right next to it, that's just bad taste to me. So is that common practice with Carol tomorrow? Because
Let me just, I didn't know it was going to go on, or I would have said it. I have never yet heard from them anything about a Longhorn going in O'Charlie's. Now, they have alluded to what is going in there, told us it was unique, which means it's not, it's not Longhorn, that it's unique and different and something we don't have. But I have never heard, he could have used an analogy, but there was no plan for a Longhorn to come there.
I don't remember that either.
The only place we've even heard that it possibly might be a Longhorn, and there wasn't the parking available, was on the Jeff Matthews property near Dunkin' Donuts. But there's a real parking problem that is required by Longhorn that apparently we don't meet with the space available there.
I'm willing to move forward for the year, and they have a year to show us exactly what it is that they can bring to us, because we have to be able to show our citizens exactly what it is that they're. Hang on just a minute.
No, I'm not.
They have to be able to show our citizens exactly what it is that they can bring us. And we have to look out for those small businesses. Whether or not that's what happened, I just want to put that out there, that we're going to keep out, or we're going to look out for those small businesses.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
No, I have something to say because I did hear a Longhorn, because I specifically said to the person that, hey, there is a mom and pop steakhouse right next door. I said that. I remember it. That is what I heard. I am not lying. I am not I am not crazy. That is what I heard.
Okay.
Yes, Councilman Montahill.
I don't recall hearing the Longhorn discussed at our retreat. But I just want to say, so my interaction with Carol tomorrow also comes through my membership on the Villa Rica Development Authority. And so I will tell you that since I've been on council, pretty much, I have been, with the exception of the last 2 years, opposed to renewing the Carroll Tomorrow contract. And I thought the city would even be better served taking the money that we send to Carroll Tomorrow, maybe putting that together with the money that VRDA puts to Carroll Tomorrow and some other funds, and perhaps bringing in-house our own economic development director. But that being said, in the last year, since Mr. Deal has came in, we actually, on the VRDA side, we actually have updates, and we have information, and we have data, and we have them actually presenting us with things to do for the first time, and not just having a meeting to say we had a meeting. We've also been able to use Carroll Tomorrow as a resource to give us some insight on potential industrial and commercial developments. And I think they've kind of shown their value in the last year. The best part is, in a year, we get to see if they're still doing that. So I'm in favor of continuing this based upon my experience with Carroll Tomorrow.
Councilman Carter.
Okay. Going forward, we're into the last month of the fiscal year, so it starts in October. I would like for you to keep a list of anything that Carroll Tomorrow provides to us, so when this comes up next year, we will have a list of the things, the benefits that we've gotten from this money.
Can I say something?
Absolutely. Are you done there? Okay, Mr. Reese.
Here's what I would suggest moving forward for the council. You get what you pay for. The reason Brian Deal has engaged is because he calls me and I call him back. That didn't happen in the past. He was frustrated too. Okay? But I'll just leave that part at that. I think it's very reasonable for you to expect as a governing body for Brian Dill or someone from Carroll tomorrow to come to every council meeting that you have with an update. In addition to that, before that even happens, I think you need to, at a council meeting, have Brian Dill here. You all think about what you would like to see in Villa Rica and give that list of things to him. And then you have something to measure his productivity to the point of doing employee evaluations. That's what this is. This is an evaluation. This is what we want, and this is, you tell us what you're going to do or can't do or can do, and you give us monthly updates. I think that's completely reasonable.
Sure. When I met with Mr. Dill in January, he said, we don't know what Villa Rica wants because nobody's talking to us. And we started talking. And I started showing up at the meetings, and we've met. So, yes, ma'am.
I'm having a really hard time with this. I'm sorry. So, $75,000 is a lot of money. What have they done for us up to this point? Because nobody's here tonight. Have they been at council meetings previously?
We don't request them to come. This needs to stop. I'm sorry. I don't have ADD, but I'm constantly hearing talking. I don't know if it's distracting to anybody else, but y'all don't realize how much it echoes up here when we're focusing on what somebody's saying. So just, okay, thank you. Where were we?
Okay, this is the 2024. We've already pledged this money. I'm ready to make a motion because I think we've pledged this money already.
We did already pledge the money?
Yeah, we put it in the 2024 budget.
We're paying a
We took pay in this year's budget bill. So next year we expect to see a list of things that they've done for us. But right now, I think we owe them the $75,000 for the year that's closing out at the end of this month. I'm ready for a motion if you are.
I'll entertain a motion.
Okay, I move to approve the annual 2024 pledge payment of $75,000 to Carroll tomorrow.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Any opposed?
Motion passes 3-2.
Okay. Mr. Reese, now you're finally really up.
I promise I'll make this brief. So thank you for adoption of the 2025 budget. That's a big thing that you do every year, and I appreciate everybody's involvement. I appreciate the discussion with each council person, and we always agree to either agree or disagree, and that's professional, and we're good at doing that. Always have been. So we are still working on water rate negotiations with Carroll County and Douglas County. We're close on both of them. The holdup on the Douglas County side was the insurance policy, basically, that we added to that because I didn't want us to be in a situation, nor did staff want us to be in a situation where something happened with our lake and we didn't have somewhere to fall back on. So we produce about 1.2, 1.3 million gallons of water a day. If something happens to Lake Fashion, that goes away. So that agreement with Douglas County will give us the option to buy that water to make up that difference. I think that's a huge thing for Villa Rica. The public's left turn lane is being engineered. The original drawings that were provided to the city were not sufficient for us to go out to bid on those. They didn't have the specifications, and I just didn't feel comfortable, especially after talking to some folks at GDOT, and they had some concerns about the way that lane was first constructed by that engineering firm. So we're getting it engineered, and we'll go out to bid on that. Hopefully I'll have those numbers back to you next month. The North Plant Force Main project, which we talked about in detail, is underway. They started today? Okay, they started today on that. So Shoreline Parkway, you'll see the road begin to come up. That's where it's going to tie into that lift station down at the bridge down there. So just know about that for your constituents. We're working on water sewer capacity for the future and for the present and for the future. We're still working on that. And I was telling the mayor earlier, one of the things that we're doing on that report is that, as some of you may know that have been on the council for a while, the EPD is starting to phase out, what am I trying to say? Septic tanks.
Oh, there you go.
Couldn't think about it. So they're starting to phase out septic tanks. So we didn't have that number on our report. So that's about 600 and something houses in the city limits that are still on septic tank that at some point in the future will be on
How many was
sanitary
that?
sewer. 685. You're one of them. So eventually we know we're going to go online. So I think it's important that we add those. That's 600 and something more units basically that wasn't in the report. So we've added those to that list. We're working on all the dwellings. We've talked about townhomes and apartments and everything else. We're working on that list. We're basically almost finished with it, and we added another column to that, and that is the wards. So each ward will have its own. You'll know, each council person will know what developments are being built in their particular ward, so you can kind of watch that for your constituents. We're working on the Main Street drainage project. As you can see the construction and everything that's going on down there. That caused a bit of a panic yesterday because, as you know, and this is one of my other talking points, is Gold Rush Festival is 2 weeks from Saturday. So we're not going to be finished with that project by then. But we are going to make it safe so that we don't have to relocate Gold Rush, which was one of the things that was being considered. That is off the table. You will see asphalt going on the ground tomorrow down here. In the places that we can't cover with asphalt, we'll put metal plates up so it'll be safe for people to walk on. So that's been taken care of. Gold Rush Festival, I said, is September the 22nd. Paving projects are ongoing. I think Council Member, Mr. Carter said Edge Road is the next one on the list. And unless this tropical storm goes through, which is, I think it's supposed to impact us on Thursday, so and perhaps Friday. So that's underway. Gabe's is coming back to town. Hallelujah. That's one of the more positive things I've seen on Facebook recently. So Gabe's was here for a long time, went to Douglasville, and now they're coming back. The WIC building has been moved, and it's in the back here. We're actually working on the driveway to come in the side of that, and so we'll have all that back in place. We've also been talking about some of the things that have been going on with planning and zoning with the board. The board feels like they're kind of disconnected from the staff, and not because of anything staff has done. It's just a product of not having a P&Z board that's active for a few years. So one of the things I've reached out to former P&Z members. David Rogers actually came up with the idea to let them come in and work with the current P&Z board. I think that will lend a little continuity to that group and make them work together. Unfortunately, one of those members passed away, Tom Flowers, so he will not be a part. He was on that list. So that's just some of the things we're working on. That's sort of the highlights, and I'll get you all this in writing. So thank you all. I appreciate it.
Okay, so the last thing before we adjourn, because we do know that Mr. Reese committed a certain amount of time to us to come in, although we're hoping to keep you on as a consultant and see these projects through, because you know the city so well and have that consistency. But it is my desire that if it's agreeable to Ms. Diana DeSanto to step in for 6 months, for the interim city manager, and then we will take further steps after we reach that 6 months. And she'll need to maybe work out some contractual agreements with the city, but I think there's going to be a lot of people that are very pleased with you doing that. So. End on a positive note. Do you want to say anything? You don't have to. Okay. Okay. All right. Have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
All in favor?